What's up guys, Jerome here, and today we're going to be talking about the best DPS in Phase 3 of Wrath of the Lich King. We're not only going to be factoring in the best DPS, but also which classes actually bring the most to the raid. After all, TOC is the ultimate challenge running raid, and you're going to want to get through the raid with as few wipes as possible. So let's get into the C tier. As always in the C tier, we've got our Sub Rogue and our Frost Mage. Although you could theoretically pump with either of these specs, there's just better options for PvE. Also in the C tier, we've got the BM Hunter. The data shows less than 3,000 BM Hunter parses in the last week. There's two better Hunter specs, so unless you're just playing to have fun, I don't really see a point in bringing a Beastmaster. And rounding out the C tier, we've also got the Arms Warrior. Because Arms Warriors have a reputation of bottoming out the meters, it doesn't really make sense for the best players to play them. The best warriors have re-rolled into either Fury or Prout Warrior, and they've driven the averages down even more. And moving into the B tier, we've got Destro Lock. Destro Lock has a lot working against it in Phase 3. The average fights are pretty long, about 4.5 minutes each, and you don't really offer much to the raid in terms of unique buffs or debuffs. Ultimately, TOC is a challenge running and speed running raid, so you're not going to see a lot of room for specs that don't add a lot to the raid. That being said, Destro Locks actually do scale really well, especially with haste, so you might see a couple. Next up, we have Ellie Shamans. Ellie Shamans are pretty great in TOC. Obviously, they can dual spec to Resto so they can heal for any fights they need to, plus the new Fire Ellie change is really nice. Ellie Shamans are going to be incredibly desirable as well for 10-mans. And even though I don't personally respect Ellie Shaman damage as much as everybody else, Simsei and Full Bist, they're basically within 10% of the top specs. At number 16, we've got Feral Druids. I know Feral Druids scale really well in TOC and ICC, and yes, I do know they're going to get a lot of benefit from the armor pen, but Feral Druids have a really low skill floor and a really high skill ceiling. Coupling that with the fact that many of the top tier Feral Druids have moved to other specs like Affliction Lock leads me to rank Feral pretty low. At number 15, we have Boomkins. I personally play a Boomkin in some fights, and I really do enjoy the gameplay. From my experience, they do dominate on fights like Hodir, and they do sim really well. But a lot of the strengths of Boomkin aren't going to be really taken advantage of in TOC. For example, there's no trash in TOC, so you're not going to be able to starfall any big packs. Even on fights like a New Barak, I just don't see Boomkin really topping the meters. Now let's get into the A tier. At number 14, we have Shadow Priest. I've also been playing a Shadow Priest, and I really do enjoy the gameplay. Not only is Shadow Priest an incredibly valuable asset to your raid, but you can also dual spec to Disc or Holy anytime you need. Since TOC is going to be all about minimizing wipes and maximizing safety, I really think Shadow Priest will shine. But there's no denying that Shadow Priest is on the lower end of the DPS scale. At number 13, we have Arcane Mages. Arcane Mages are going to be way less popular in TOC. That being said, I really do think they're still viable. My friend Squilly in the GDKP I'm in sometimes plays Arcane, and he still absolutely pumps. But there's definitely going to be a better and more popular mage spec coming up later in the video. If you're excited for some big mage damage in TOC, make sure to hit the subscribe button, click the like button, and hit that notification bell. At number 12, we have Marksmanship Hunters. In Bis Ulduar gear, Marksmanship Hunters do really sim well right now. Plus, they're going to scale extremely well in TOC. At number 11, we have Enhanced Shamans. Enhanced Shamans are definitely going to be pumping in TOC, and they're way better with the Fire Elemental change. Plus, it's extremely easy to get into a raid as an Enhanced Shaman, especially in those 10-mans. At number 10, we have Fury Warriors. I'm currently leveling my Fury Warrior, and I'm really excited to play it in Phase 3. Even in Ulduar right now, if you're fully bist out on a warrior, you're more than viable. With the new armor penetration gear coming in Phase 3, things are only going to get better for you. That being said, the set bonuses in Phase 3 aren't really that mind-blowing for Warrior. You may have to wait until ICC to unlock your true potential. At number 9, we have Ret Paladin. I never thought I'd see the day, but Ret Paladins are really awesome in raids right now. They bring so much utility to the raid with their sacks and their buffs. Plus, they're doing actually really high DPS now, at least compared to before. The only thing I can see slowing down Rets in Phase 3 is that their tier 9.5 set bonus isn't that great. At number 9, we have Survival Hunters. I was ready to come into this list and not rate Survival Hunters that highly, but looking back at my previous raids, I've noticed that Survival Hunters are always near the top of the DPS meters. They just absolutely pump, and things are just going to only look better in TOC. Next up, we have the S tier. At number 7, we have Demo Lock. Demo locks are going to be like death and taxes. They're always near the top of the DPS meters and they're always consistent. Okay, so that analogy didn't really make any sense, but Demo locks are going to be pumping. Although they're almost always going to be near the top 5 of the DPS meters, their scaling isn't that amazing. But one class that does have amazing scaling is Frost Death Knights. Frost Death Knights are going to love their gear in TOC. I know things are different now, but back in the original TOC, Frost Death Knights were always near the top of the meters. That being said, you're not going to reach your maxed out armor penetrating form until ICC. At number 5, we have Combat Rogues. My previous tier list always mentioned Combat Rogues out DPSing Assassination Rogues. Combat Rogues scale amazingly with gear, and I would have thought they would have overtaken Assassination by now. But for whatever reason, Assassination is just slightly ahead of them right now, and it looks like that'll continue in TOC. Hey, speak of the devil, looks like at number 4 we've got Assassination Rogues. One of my theories for why Assassination Rogues are out DPSing Combat Rogues is that a lot of the best Combat Rogues gravitated towards Assassination. I can tell you from personal experience that I played with the second best Assassination Rogue on NA, and he absolutely dominates on every fight. Moving into number 3, we have Unholy Death Knights. I was all good and ready to rate on Holy Death Knights a lot lower on the list. But when I talked to some experts like Rugs and some of the private server people, they just kept bringing up that tier 9.5 set bonus. The tier 9.5 set bonus is considered to be so good that you might even use it over the tier 10.5 set. Moving on to number 2, we have Affliction Warlocks. I know Affliction Warlocks are just absolutely dominating the meters right now, and you're going to be pretty miffed that I moved them down. But they just don't quite scale as amazingly as everybody else. And at number 1, drumroll please, we've got Fire Mage. Mark my words, come back here a few months from now, Fire Mage is going to be topping the meters on most fights in TOC. Their gear is just scaling them so incredibly well. They're built for these medium-length fights. They're just going to dominate. What if Blizzard just knew the whole time that if they fixed the mage bugs, mages would just become way too powerful? So now you know the best DPS classes in Phase 3 of Wrath of the Lich King. But there's some really key information every DPS player needs to know before they go into the phase. Check out my Phase 3 must-watch DPS video next.